He had been waiting for love so long that the waiting itself had become his life, quiet and invisible, like a train platform long after the last train had passed. Every evening, as the city dimmed and windows lit up one by one, he would sit alone on the bench outside the small church on Maple Street, watching couples walk past with intertwined fingers, laughing, arguing, living. He told himself he wasn't lonely, just patient. He told himself that God had a plan. What he didn't know was that love was already on its way to him, not in the way he imagined, but in the way he needed most. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that some people come into our lives exactly when they're meant to, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who still believes in love, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your small action helps stories like this reach hearts that may need them today. His name was Daniel Moore, and at 38, he lived a life most people would call simple, maybe even small. He worked as a night security guard at a medical supply warehouse, a job that paid the bills but rarely gave him stories to tell. His apartment was clean but bare, decorated with practicality rather than personality. A couch, a table, a bed, and a Bible on the nightstand that he read more out of habit than hope. Daniel had once imagined a different life. A wife, children, Sunday breakfasts filled with noise. But time passed quietly, and one by one, the people around him paired off, built families, moved on. Daniel stayed behind, telling himself that love would come when it was ready. What Daniel never talked about was the loss that shaped him. Years earlier, the woman he thought he would marry had left without much explanation, choosing a life that didn't include waiting or faith or patience. That heartbreak didn't make him bitter, it made him careful. He stopped searching, stopped expecting. Instead, he learned to serve. He volunteered at the church food pantry, helped elderly neighbors carry groceries, fixed broken steps without being asked. He believed that if love couldn't find him, at least goodness could flow through him. On a cold, rain-heavy evening, Daniel's routine changed in a way he didn't notice at first. As he walked past the bus stop near the church, he saw a woman sitting on the wet bench, clutching a thin coat around her body. Her hair was damp, her shoulders trembling, and beside her was a small suitcase that looked like it had been carried too far by someone too tired. Something about the way she stared at the ground, not crying, not moving, made him stop. Her name was Sarah Collins, though he didn't know it yet. She had arrived in the city that morning with nowhere to go and no one waiting. What she carried was not just a suitcase, but the weight of a marriage that had broken her slowly. Years of emotional neglect, quiet manipulation, and finally abandonment had left her emptied of confidence and direction. When her husband walked out, he took more than his clothes. He took her sense of worth, her belief that she mattered. She left town not because she had a plan, but because staying hurt too much. That first night, Daniel didn't ask questions. He didn't offer solutions. He simply offered presence. He gave her a cup of coffee from the church kitchen and sat a few feet away, giving her space while making it clear she wasn't alone. Sarah accepted the warmth without meeting his eyes. She wasn't used to kindness without conditions. It scared her more than cruelty ever had. Over the next few days, their paths crossed again and again, as if gently arranged by hands neither of them could see. Sarah began helping at the pantry, mostly to repay what she felt she owed. Daniel noticed how she moved carefully, like someone afraid of breaking something invisible. He learned her story in fragments, not through dramatic confessions but through quiet truths that slipped out when she felt safe enough. He didn't rush her healing. He didn't try to fix her. He simply listened, and in listening, he gave her something she hadn't felt in years, being seen. Daniel, on the other hand, began to feel something he had buried deep. Not romantic excitement, not longing, but purpose. For the first time in a long while, his waiting felt meaningful. He wasn't waiting for love anymore, he was living inside it, even if it hadn't taken the shape he once imagined. He prayed differently now. Not asking God for a wife, but thanking him for the chance to care. Sarah's struggle didn't disappear quickly. Some nights she cried herself to sleep in the small room the church helped her find. Some mornings she woke up convinced she was a burden to everyone around her. Old wounds don't heal on a schedule. But little by little, things began to change. She started smiling without forcing it. She began applying for jobs. She laughed one afternoon while stacking canned goods, surprising herself and Daniel alike. For the first time since her marriage ended, she felt safe enough to breathe. Daniel struggled too, though he rarely admitted it. Loving someone who is broken is not easy. It requires patience without reward, care without ownership. He wrestled with his own desires, his own loneliness. There were moments he wondered if he was being foolish, investing his heart where it might never be returned. But each time doubt crept in, he remembered why he believed in love in the first place, not as something to take, but something to give. Months passed. Seasons changed. Sarah found steady work at a local bookstore. She cut her hair, stood taller, spoke with more confidence. One evening, as they walked past the same bus stop where they first met, she stopped and looked at Daniel with tears in her eyes, not of pain this time, but gratitude. She told him that he had saved her life, though he didn't see it that way. He believed she saved herself, he had just been there to remind her she could. What neither of them realized was that love had been quietly growing between them, not from longing, but from shared healing. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was built from consistency, trust, and a simple act of choosing kindness every day. Daniel had waited for love to arrive fully formed, wrapped in certainty. Instead, it arrived as responsibility, compassion, and timing he couldn't have planned. The night everything shifted was ordinary. They sat on the church steps after a long day of volunteering, watching the city lights flicker on. Sarah spoke about her past without fear for the first time. Daniel spoke about his loneliness without shame. There was no sudden confession, no cinematic declaration. Just understanding. Just two people realizing that God had answered their prayers in a way neither had expected. If this story is touching something inside you right now, if it reminds you of a time when love showed up quietly in your life, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and engage with the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive and reaching the people who need them most. Love didn't fix everything overnight. They still carried scars. They still had doubts. But now, they carried them together. Daniel learned that waiting for love doesn't mean standing still. Sometimes it means becoming the kind of person love can trust. Sarah learned that being loved doesn't mean being perfect or whole, it means being accepted exactly where you are. Before this story ends, we have one small request. Comment below with the word faith, and let us know if you believe that God sends people into our lives not always when we want them, but when we need them most. Because somewhere right now, a man is waiting for love, and somewhere else, a woman is praying just to survive. And sometimes, in ways we'll never fully understand, God answers both prayers with the same miracle.